right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a slightly damp San Diego. I normally say sunny, it's a bit damp today. And I am delighted to be joined all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, by Deb Krier. How are you doing, Deb?
I am just absolutely fantabulous, and it's dry here.
Yeah, dry and probably humid too.
It's not too bad because it's been too dry.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Nice. And Deb's an entrepreneur, cancer advocate, strategic advisor to business owners and executives who find themselves leading through one of life's biggest curveballs, which is cancer. Over 2 decades experience in communication, marketing, PR. She's built a career helping other people amplify their voices and use your own to launch Try Not to Die.live after being diagnosed as stage 4 breast cancer. Now you're a trained certified in integrative cancer coach. I love it. It's fantastic. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is leading through a crisis, how to run a business while managing a health emergency. So Deb, let's face it, in a lot of business, especially small businesses, entrepreneur businesses or whatever, uh if the founder or one of the key people, you know, has a life incident
Mhm,
like this, like a cancer or sickness, it can really throw the whole business off because
mhm.
they are the business, if you like.
Right. Right. Well, first, thank you for having me on the
Of
program.
course.
It is an honor. Oh my gosh, you have done so many podcasts, so it is truly an honor. But you're right. It's a challenge no matter what. When you are
Mhm.
told you have cancer or any other big health issue, you're thinking, "What the heck?" But when you're trying to run a business and you are told you have cancer, it just really throws you for a curveball. Do you keep
Sure.
trying to work? Do you stop working? Who do you tell? Are people going to think, well, you can't do it, so we're not going to work with you? All of those various things. And so it is an even bigger challenge if someone is a C-level person or a business owner.
Yeah. So when it happened to you, I mean,
Mhm,
how did you start to figure out how to navigate and how to juggle your
mhm,
responsibilities while also obviously focusing on
mhm.
the most important thing, which was your
Right.
recovery?
Right. Well, I'm now a little over 10 years out from my first diagnosis. I have 3.
Mm.
Um, and so initially I was told it was not gonna be a big deal and that it would be very easy to treat, and so that was kinda how I went into it, and unfortunately, it progressed to not be, easy to deal with,
Mhm.
and one of the things that I found is that working helped me to have something to focus on. And that was really one of the things that was so important to me. Even if I was, in the hospital, there were times where I would be in the hospital and people wouldn't know because hospitals and doctors' offices have really good Wi-Fi, right?
Right,
And
right.
so I would just keep working merrily along. But the biggest challenge was, who do I tell? Do I
Yeah,
tell my clients? And I discovered very early that my clients were some of my biggest supporters.
right, right.
And that would be a case of if they had now, there are those that say, we want you to focus on your health, put us on the
Mhm.
back burner. That's perfectly fine. But if it was, we don't want to work with you anymore because of this, well, then you don't want to be working with them.
Yeah, yeah, that's not a client you wanted.
Right. Right. Yeah. Shoo them out the door.
Yeah, so that's a really important and fascinating point about the communication piece, because
Mhm.
that's got to
Mhm.
be obviously one of the biggest
Mhm.
challenges. How
Mhm.
do people because people react in funny ways nowadays
Right.
to a lot of things, do a lot of
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, on balance, did you find that being more transparent was better for your business?
It was for me.
Mhm.
Now obviously each person is different with
Sure.
how much they want to share and who they want to share, but I needed the support from others. And so that
Mhm.
really was one of the big things, was to have my tribe around me and have them supporting. But then it's kind of the, how much do you
Yeah,
tell?
I was gonna
Right?
say.
And so but the thing that I also discovered, and my background is in corporate communications.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I discovered very early on is, if you don't kind of fill in at least some information, people will make it up.
Sure.
And they make it up in the worst possible way, right?
Mhm.
And so without telling the full story, you can still let them know, hey, I'm going through this. Everything will be okay, but I might need some help from you every once in a while, or
Mm.
I might not respond as promptly as usual. Things like that. You don't have to tell
Yeah.
them every single thing, but it's okay to say, I'm going through this, but it'll be okay.
Yeah, and I guess the thing at the end of the day is, is positioning, and because I
Mhm.
mean, I take it you don't want to be defined by your,
Right. I am not
defined by having.
cancer girl.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, being able to sort of tell people, yes, I'm going through this or
Mhm,
whatever, but this isn't my whole life. Like,
mhm. Right. Right.
this is my job, this is my
Mhm,
life or
mhm,
whatever. I'm still here to do it, and I
mhm,
don't need to be
mhm,
defined by it. Therefore, you probably have to also say, as you said, how often are you going to communicate? How much
mhm.
are you going to
Right.
communicate? Are you going to give an update and then move to
Mhm,
business?
mhm. Right. And it definitely is not something that defines me. It's just,
Mhm.
as we say, it's just a chapter in the book. I was in a doctor's office one time, and I heard the staff say, "Hey, the thyroid cancer is in room 3." Now there's HIPAA laws, there's all sorts of stuff.
Sure.
But I went out and I said, "Excuse me. I know why you did that, but please don't ever think that anybody is just their diagnosis."
Mhm.
And they apologized profusely, and I'm sure after I left, went back to doing that. But, we are not, it's kind of, one of the things that always gets me is if somebody says, I am just a whatever,
Mhm.
just a mom, right? That's the most important job in the world.
Absolutely.
Um, just an entrepreneur. No, we are not just an anything.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point, and it's very easy to kind of dehumanize people,
Mhm,
just
mhm.
by, by, as you said. I mean, it probably had a reason for it, but it wasn't a good. It
Right.
wasn't. It wasn't a
Mhm,
good. It wasn't an
mhm,
elegant way of doing things.
mhm,
And I think,
mhm,
I mean, especially when people are suffering, uh,
mhm,
but also then, obviously there's communication and there's the
mhm.
people you work with, and then but there's also managing boundaries, isn't it? Because sometimes
Right.
people don't know how to react to a
Mhm,
situation like
right.
that. Your colleagues, even because,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
sometimes maybe you have to set some boundaries around it.
mhm. Right. It's funny, people really don't know how to react, and that's one of the biggest questions I get is, my friend, my coworker, my whoever was diagnosed, and I don't know what to do or say.
Mhm.
So one of the first things they do is they don't say anything.
Yeah.
Well, then we think they don't love us. You know? Um, and but it's also, we might not have chosen to talk about it more than
Yeah.
just to give little updates. So I tell people, the easy thing is just to say, "Hey, John, I'm sorry you're going through this."
Mhm. Yeah.
Then you get to decide how much you're gonna tell more about. But don't act like it's not going on, especially if you're talking to somebody who is in the middle of treatment. They might be bald, they might,
Mm.
look bad, all these various things. So it's okay to acknowledge it without going into detail. I had many people who told me we didn't know what to say, so we didn't say anything.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
told them, Hallmark has cards. You know, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
still
that's
have
true.
I have all of those cards. I've had them in a box for 10 years. But those really meant a lot to me. Just to have, and some of them were the serious type. Some of them were, Garfield the cat telling you to eat
Mhm.
more lasagna, whatever. Um, but just the fact that they thought about me for that little period of time really did help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it takes a couple of seconds to
Mhm,
pop into
mhm,
Hallmark. Tell me a little bit about, how do you advise people, and what did you do about
mhm,
the people in your business? So putting
mhm,
customers aside, for the people in your
mhm,
business, because, let's face it, as we're obviously would be
mhm,
sympathetic and all of that, but we're
mhm,
also have to look after
mhm.
ourselves too.
Right.
So we're going to feel like, oh,
Mhm,
is this the business?
mhm,
What's going to happen? There's a lot of,
mhm.
so how do you manage that uncertainty?
Well, that's where, if it's employees, consultants, whoever,
Mhm.
you need to be as honest as you can.
Right.
And say, I'm gonna miss X period of time, or every afternoon at 3, I have to leave. I might be coming in late because, of whatever. Because again, people will make things up if they don't know, and they'll make it up worse than
Of
it
course.
is.
Mhm.
But, you want to encourage them to ask questions. That's one of the things to say is, if you're curious about what I'm going through, don't hesitate to ask me. And but also realize that they're having a hard time dealing with it too.
Yeah.
Especially if, and especially so many small businesses, it's more like a family, right?
Mhm.
And so they want to know they're worried about you, and so they want to know a little bit about it. But again, just kind of go by their reaction. If they keep kind of asking for more, then that's okay.
Mhm.
Still draw those boundaries. You don't need to give them every single detail, but
Mhm.
if they are curious, and maybe they're just saying, how often are your treatments?
Right.
What are they're probably going to say, what are they saying your outcome is going to be,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's where they are thinking, am I still gonna have a job?
Exactly.
And so be as honest with them as you can, and don't lie. Oh, everything's gonna be hunky dory, if it's not going to be.
Yeah.
And you might lose staff during this
Mhm.
time, but when you're communicating with them, that's the other thing to do, is to say, I'm gonna need more help from you.
Right.
And you as that business owner might have to learn that D word, delegate,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's where, you really wanna make sure that you trust them, and you want them to know that you trust them, because,
Mhm.
when all is said and done, maybe afterwards, you wanna go on vacation and not
Yeah.
have, people bothering you. So it's a good thing to have worked through a lot of these issues, and you wouldn't have hired them if you didn't trust them. So let's
Mhm.
give them even more responsibility and let them thrive during this time.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it is, and it is hard for people because you want to obviously, like, they want to be very sympathetic and
Mhm,
sensitive and all of
mhm,
that, and it's an unknown
mhm,
situation for
mhm.
them. But at the same time, as you said, they have their own worries about what does
Right.
this mean for
Mhm,
me for the future. So you have to obviously understand that.
mhm,
Tell me a little bit about switching gears slightly. Okay, we're talking about the reactive stuff. Okay,
mhm.
what can you do proactively in your business to prepare and make
Mhm.
sure you have the systems and the mindset,
Right,
everything prepare for should such an eventuality
right,
occur?
right. Well, I mean, these are things that we should have done anyway,
Mhm.
right? A business continuity plan.
Right.
Have you done that? And I work with people to do it. I don't wanna see their no, no, they don't send me what they've done, but have they thought about that? Do they know who their attorney is?
Mhm.
You might, one of the things that I talk to a lot of people about is your finances. Are you, as the owner, the only person who can sign a check?
Oh,
You at the again, that's where delegating is going to come in. You might need somebody else to be paying the bills. Now, you might set it up that, they can't write a check over
yes.
$1,000, whatever. Um, but yeah, think about those things. Think about your personal, do you have a will? We should have those. Do we? No.
Mhm.
Your powers of attorney. The second you check into a hospital, that is one of the things they ask you. Do you have a medical power of attorney? And so have those things, have people know where those are, and let them know that, okay, my spouse is going to be the person, or a sibling, or somebody like that. But, all those things are things that we should be thinking about before. But then it comes back to exactly what I was saying, are you empowering your employees to be the best that they can
Mhm.
be? We should be doing that no matter what. I was on a call the other day with someone who said she was told, oh, I can't promote you because you are absolutely the best person at that job. Well, they meant it as a
Mhm.
compliment, but, it to her, it was like, "Well, why should I stay here? I'm not gonna go
Yeah,
any higher."
yeah,
And so, yeah, how are you working with your employees, to make sure that you are making them the best that they can be?
yeah, yeah. And I think it's and we've all been through situations, say, when somebody left suddenly or something,
Mhm.
and
Right.
that's the great part, is when you
Mhm.
discover, you go, where's the password to that? Who looked after? What is
I
this? Where?
know!
And then you
Mhm.
suddenly realize that there's all these things that you
Right.
don't have
Mhm.
documented
Mhm.
anywhere,
Mhm.
and so you scramble. So I
Mhm.
think every business needs to make sure that they have. If you
Right.
disappeared tomorrow, whatever, or
Yeah.
whatever, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
aliens abducted you for a day or two,
Mhm.
like, how
Mhm. Right.
would other people be able to keep the business
Mhm.
running?
Right, right. Who cleans your office?
Mhm.
You know, and some of it really is just some of the very basic things that you just do. But more importantly, who's your CPA? Who's your business
Yeah.
attorney? all of those things, have those listed somewhere, not on the bulletin board in the cafeteria,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
but, a couple of your trusted associates should have those so that they know those, and also be speaking, if you are married and have a family or, a partner, let them know kind of from the business perspective too what's going on, because
Right.
they might be thinking, I don't want to take over.
Yeah.
you know, and let them know, no, no, it's okay. Sue is going to be in charge.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of keeping those communication lines open.
And obviously, this can also be a great opportunity to see the folks that you have working for you,
Mhm.
see the people who can step up, the
Right,
people who can embrace
right.
it, the people who
Mhm,
look on it,
mhm,
as sad a situation as
mhm,
it might be,
mhm.
but they look on it and okay, here's an opportunity for me
Right,
to do
yeah.
more, to step up,
Mhm,
to
mhm.
shine in many
Right.
ways.
Mhm, mhm, right. And I remember during COVID, I was talking with someone who was very, he was very concerned about, excuse me, his employees still doing the work when they were working remotely,
Mhm.
and he didn't trust them.
Right.
And I said, "Well, did you trust them when you were in the same office with them?" And of course, you got one of two answers, right? If the answer was yes, then it's, well, then you can trust them now. If the answer was no, then they shouldn't have been an employee,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so this is, I think what this does make us think about is, do we have the right people who are working with us? And again, are we working with the right clients? Maybe we don't
Mhm.
want to be doing that. And there are also business owners who are going to go, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And so
Right.
how can they transition out of doing that?
Yeah, and how can you do that? And also,
Mhm,
maybe if you're selling the business, maybe if you're going to
mhm,
close the
right.
business, how do you
Mhm.
help those folks, who've
Right,
been
yeah.
loyal to you?
Does an employee wanna take over,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, because it is, even if it's a fairly, excuse me, routine diagnosis where they're saying, don't worry about it. It does make you rethink.
Yeah.
I tell people, I think my expiration date has changed. I have no idea what it changed to. Um, but yeah, do I want to be doing this for the rest of my life? Or maybe I want to take on a partner because I want to be traveling more, or I want to do something different. It really makes us review what our life is, and where are we going.
Yeah, absolutely. So then the next steps that you take are intentional, and
Mhm,
and everybody understands like where what the long-term
mhm,
impact of this thing, because you're
mhm,
right. I mean, that's the thing is maybe you do come back and say, well, life's too
mhm,
short. I don't want to do this. I
mhm.
want to do something
Right.
else. Now, how do
Mhm,
I transition out?
mhm. Right. And there's certainly lots of ways to be doing that, but again, that should be something you've been thinking of all along. What
Mhm.
are my long-term business plans? I only want to do this until age whatever. I only want to do this for 10 years. Be thinking about those. And I think that's the thing, is so much of this are basic business things that we should be doing anyway, but haven't, because we're running our business.
Exactly, exactly. And I think the really important point coming out of it, as you said, is to make sure that those people who are in your business with you are people you
Mhm.
trust, people you can
Right.
rely
Mhm.
on.
Mhm.
It's a terrible time to find out
Mhm.
that maybe you just hired people
There's
because you.
nobody that can write your checks because you don't trust anybody.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And then
Mhm.
that calls into question, is it their fault or is it your fault because you hired the wrong
Right,
people, or
right. Mhm.
you haven't nurtured them?
Mhm. Right, right. Maybe they're the best people in the world, but you never gave them that opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's one of the key things
Mhm.
probably every business should just do that. Just say like, if there
Mhm.
was a calamity tomorrow, am I surrounded by?
Mhm.
Are there people? And it's maybe not everybody. It doesn't have to be, but
Right.
are
Yeah,
there
it depends
people?
on what it is. Mhm.
Yeah. But do I
Mhm.
have key people in the
Mhm.
business that I can
Mhm.
absolutely
Right.
100%
Mhm.
trust and
Mhm.
rely on? And if you can't answer that question, then obviously you probably need to take a look at your hiring
Right.
practices.
Right. And if you're a solopreneur,
Hmm.
you can still be taking these steps, because there's probably going to be somebody that is going to have to do something, and especially if it's absolutely catastrophic and you pass away, right?
Hmm.
Who's going to notify your clients? Who's going to write those final checks? Who's going to turn off your website and turn off the lights, right?
Yeah.
And so kind of have some of those things that you're thinking about too.
Yeah, yeah. No, we had that experience with an attorney that we had one time who
Mm,
unfortunately, did
mhm,
pass away, but,
mhm,
the people around the attorney were
mhm.
fantastic at a time of
Right.
great,
Mhm,
obviously great grief
mhm,
for them,
mhm,
with making
mhm,
sure that us as a customer were
mhm.
looked after, were
Right.
informed, they
Mhm,
helped us find a
mhm,
transition
mhm.
to a different attorney, etcetera.
Right. Mhm. Right. And we don't like to think about the gloom and doom,
Mhm.
but if we've planned for it, it goes easier for us and for everyone else.
Yeah, listen, fantastic. That's a great way to end. Yeah, if we plan for it, goes easy for ourselves and for everybody else.
Mhm,
Simple advice is the most powerful, by the way.
mhm,
There you
mhm.
go. And simple doesn't always equate to easy either. So just remember
True.
that too. You have to put some effort into it.
Mhm, mhm.
So listen, thanks so much, Deb. All of Deb's information
Thank
will be
you.
below this video. But before
Mhm.
we go, please do remind people about what you do.
So I do have an online support group, trying not to die.live. That's for anybody who is on a cancer journey, whether they have cancer themselves or they are supporting someone with cancer. And then yourcancercoach.live is if you are a business owner or a senior executive and you're thinking, I don't know what I'm doing now.
Mhm.
I'm there to help.
Excellent. Well, as you can tell, like, Deb's a fantastic resource. So I would encourage you to check it out. Either one, if you're on that journey yourself, if you need the help with your business, go check it out. So thanks again, Deb. Thank you for
Thank
watching and
you.
listening. And I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.